Back again. Get situated. Alright. So in this video, I want to talk about a few things. I got some time. I want to talk about a few things. I want to talk about getting stuck in situations that you don't like, you don't feel like are serving you. I want to talk about overcoming depression or any, I almost want to say mental disorder, but I guess I'll say mood disorder, right? And I'm not a doctor, I'm not a professional. I'm just going to be speaking from my experience, just a dude on the internet talking about what I've been through and hoping that it'll help somebody. Really just opening the doors for a conversation, get in the comments, let me know what you think, and we can have an exchange, right? And I also want to start by talking about attitude and perspective. And more and more these days, I'm recognizing how the way you perceive just one tiny thing can change so much in your life, and it can actually change the life. It can change things in other people's lives as well. So attitude is contagious, right? Like I hear that all the time, but I never really, I guess, internalize it in the way that I do now. Because not only is attitude contagious, but our thoughts are contagious. Our perspective is contagious. The way that we see things is the way that we carry ourselves. I guess the way that we see things determines how we carry ourselves, and the way that we present ourselves, and the ideas that we share with others, and the way that we interact with others. And that changes everything. That changes the way that people interact with us. That changes the way that people interact with other people, right? So every day we are constantly rebuilding this net, this web of human interaction. And at any moment in time, we can change the web that we are building, the net that we're building, right? So I kept hearing like this word net in my head. I kept hearing net, and I was like really getting frustrated by that thought because it kept coming back, and I was like, what does that mean? You know? And when I get these intrusive thoughts, I try to find the meaning in them, because I've come to recognize that the universe has a funny way of giving you that next level, that upgrade in your consciousness, but you still have to do the work to understand it. And so as I started to recognize, like, net, it represents the network that we are. Like, before the internet, there was us, right? There was this network of life, of interaction, of cause and effect. And we are that net. We are that network. And so these ideas, these attitudes, these perspectives, everything that we develop and we see and we perceive and we build and we create, it's all getting captured in that net, documented in that net, and it's all being spread from one individual to another. So when it comes to our attitudes and our perspectives on life, we are constantly spreading that through this network. So if I wake up in the morning and I, for whatever reason, I'm feeling negative, right? You might wake up with a lot of intrusive thoughts. I know sometimes I do. And it's getting better, right? Like, that's getting better for me the more that I address those thoughts, and the more that I do inner work and work on myself, my shadow, and understand myself more and understand the true root of those thoughts, the better I feel, right? And I'll get into that more. But what I'm attempting to say is basically, if you wake up in a negative mood and you let that negativity weigh on you, and then you go out into the day, and the people that you interact with, you put them in that negative lens. You see them through a negative lens because you're in a negative mood. And then, therefore, you end up feeding more negativity into the network, right? Into the human consciousness, the collective. And what that ultimately does is it starts to create almost it creates its own reality, right? In which all that exists now are these negative interactions. So my bad mood has spread to this person, whereas I could have given them a compliment, I could have, said something positive and uplifting, instead went into it negatively and said something derogatory or didn't say anything at all, right? You never know who is like feet away from you and only needs to hear a few good positive words to completely change their life. And I'm gonna touch on that again, because I've had friends commit suicide, and I think about it every now and then, and I'm like, damn, what could I have done differently if I had known, right? What could I have said, or where could I have been? What could I have done to keep that person alive. And now that's going to get off into a whole nother topic, so I'm going to stay here. But basically what I'm saying is you just never know how changing your own attitude and putting positivity out into the world can change someone's whole life, or can change the entire network, the reality in which we live, right? But a lot of us get caught in that negativity, and we feel like being positive is a sign of weakness, and we don't want to open up and be vulnerable and allow people to see us in that mode of accepting our inner child, or accepting that inner love and spreading it to other people, right? So I just feel like the way to combat that is to really try to relieve yourself of insecurity and recognize that everybody feels the same thing. And when you allow yourself to open up and spread that positivity, that opens up something in the next person that allows them to spread positivity, and we get to change our timeline, we get to change our reality, we get to spread love. And that's how I kind of try to spend my days, right? And I'll even give you an example. So I woke up yesterday or the day before, and I had a lot of intrusive thoughts, and I was like, damn, okay, just got to work on that. That'll pass throughout the day. What I'm really starting to recognize is that as I get these intrusive thoughts, on the days where I feel negative internally, I have begun to build a perspective that I'll tell myself, okay, if I feel negatively inside, if I have negative emotions internally or intrusive thoughts, right, something's weighing on me, I know it's going to be a positive day externally, because the universe is going to provide me that balance, and through my day, I'm going to find the experiences, I'm going to go through the experiences necessary to relieve that negativity within me, okay? So for instance, I'm getting a bit off topic, but it's just kind of channeling in, so I'm going to go with it. When I was in that bad mood, it seemed like everything was kind of going wrong, right? Like, I've noticed myself, I was anxious. I got anxious. I was in a rush. I was in a hurry to get everything done. I wanted this to go right. I wanted to do this. I wanted to get this done. And in that, every time something would go wrong, and there was another delay. And I sat there and I told myself, I'm looking around, and I start looking and I'm always looking at the universe and communicating with it through whatever's around me. And I'm like, okay, I know there's a sign here. I know that there's something you're trying to teach me, right? My higher self, spirit, divinity. And as I'm looking around and I'm dealing with all these delays, I notice that everybody around me is walking, right? And I hear this, I get this thought in my head, truckers don't run. And it's the funniest thing. And I started thinking about it, and I was like, truckers don't run, right? And then I started thinking, don't run. And the significance of that, and I'm trying to still tie this into like setting your mood and setting your attitude and your intention so that you can spread positivity. Because I think that we don't recognize how easy it is to change our mood on a day-to-day basis, or even in the moment. And this kind of gets into my next point, coming out of depression and negativity and whatever it is that has you down or has you feeling out of sorts, ways to overcome that. So I started thinking truckers don't run. And I'm looking around, and I'm at a facility where I have to pick up a load, and all of the other truckers around me are just walking, right? And they got the same limitations I got. We got to deal with this clock and whatnot, and like we only got so many hours to do what we got to do. And so I'm in a hurry because I want to get my stuff done before I run out of time. But I notice everybody around me is just walking. They're not in a hurry. And it allowed me to recognize in that moment, I said, okay, this is the problem. This is why I feel this way today. Because this is the lesson of the day, right? Is to slow down. Have patience for myself. Okay? Take that deep breath. Slow down. Okay? But before I couldn't recognize that. Before I felt like things were just, this isn't working, this isn't going right, this isn't going right. And fortunately, I've cultivated a perspective now to where when things aren't going right, I just stop. I'm like, okay, if it's a fight, it's not right. I stop. And like I said, I start looking around, I'm like, okay, the universe is trying to tell me something. Because the universe has a flow. And I notice it when I'm where I'm supposed to be and I'm right where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, there's no conflict, right? But when I start getting ahead of myself and I'm like, no, I know better, and I'm in my ego, there's a lot of conflict. There's a lot of stuff in the way. I'm, okay, all right, cool, let me check myself. So that's when I was like, okay, truckers don't run. So I stopped rushing. I stopped running, right? And the moment I did that, things that I thought were wrong were right. Things that I thought I needed to fix, I came back, I looked at the situation, I was like, oh, that's good. I looked around, I checked everything, like, oh wait, that's not even a problem anymore. Oh wait, what? I was rushing, so I was seeing things incorrectly. I was in a hurry, so I couldn't recognize that everything was actually okay, right? And so when I took that step back and I slowed down, I was able to change my mood, I was able to change my perspective of the situation, and thus I was able to change my mood. And then from then on, I had a very positive day. Very positive day. Right? And that compounds. So now, for instance, a couple days later, a day later, I'm able to wake up in a better mood, right? Because I even had that experience to look back on, like, oh, okay, cool. Well, could be worse. All right. It could be better. Let me make it better. You know what I'm saying? Let me slow down. What can I do today to make myself feel better tomorrow, right? And that just starts to happen. And so when we talk about being in depression, I asked myself today, because I used to have very deep depressive periods, very dark moods, days. And I asked myself today, I was like, man, when things are going wrong in my life, why is it that I don't get depressed, right? Because I notice a lot of people do, and I'm like, why do I not get depressed? Why is it that even in the darkest of times, I still laugh and I still smile, and even when I'm upset about something, I still push forward and manifest positivity, right? And I realized that the only reason I can do that is because when I was going through those dark days, I pushed forward, right? So I believe that what happens is when we get into, and I'm specifically talking about depression, but you may be able to apply this to any negativity that you're going through in life or anything that you feel like is holding you back. But what I recognized was that the only thing that changed was my perspective and my attitude, and I refused to be held back. I refused to let things get me down to a point where I gave up, right? And I've been there too. I've been at the point of giving up. But over time, you can get to a point where that's not a thing for you anymore. So when you're depressed and you're stuck in bed and you just can't go face another day, I feel like that means a couple of things, right? It either means that you are doing things on a daily basis that are not fulfilling you. You don't know why you're doing them, yet you continue to do them. That can be relationships, jobs, or anything in between, right? School, anything like that. Commitments that you have made and you don't know why you made them. And so, what I've recognized in myself that I used to think was a flaw, and I'm going to touch on this briefly, but the way that I overcame it was I don't really allow myself to get stuck in situations. And I used to think it was a flaw because society tells us that if you can't hold that job down for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, then you are not successful. You are not fulfilling your obligation to society, right? And for me, it's always been more about the pursuit of experience, of self-understanding, of growth, of learning that skill and that skill. And I recognize that sometimes the best way is not to be tied down to a job or anything, right? For a majority of your life. Because there's so many experiences that the divinity of this world, of this reality wants us to have, that when we tie ourselves down to things, that's why we get depressed, because that was for a season. That was for us to go through for a time, and we didn't let it go when we were supposed to let it go, and now it's conflicting with our energy, it's conflicting with who we are, right? And we're basically throwing ourselves out of that divine timing, out of the flow of the universe, and we're getting stuck in loops. And that's where that depression, I think, can stem from on a spiritual level, right? I mean, you could also have it to come from all kind of things on a scientific level. But again, like I said in my other videos, a lot of the science that we experience is just the explanation for the spiritual, okay? And I'll talk about that more. But anyway, so when you get stuck in a job, or you get stuck in a relationship, it can send you into a negative spiral. For me, I'm quick to be like, okay, this isn't working for me. I don't feel well mentally, spiritually, or in my health, physically. I'll move on. And that's always kept me in a position to overcome any negativity or depression, right? Any stalling or stagnance. So, I'm not even sure that's a word, but just being stagnant, like I can overcome that by changing my situation. So, for instance, if I guess I was saying this the other day. I'm trying to think of how to word it, but essentially what I was saying was, I don't believe in the indoctrination that we have to stay in a job for 30 years. I think that it's possible for you to work all the jobs or do whatever it is that fulfills you up until the point that it doesn't fulfill you, and then make a change, right? And in that, you not only gain new skills, you gain new perspective, you meet new people, you have new experiences that take you to new places and open up your mind in ways that it wasn't open before, and it allows you to become a person that can be a leader and offer guidance to other people, right? Instead of being stuck in one position. And so that also has its flaws, right? Like if you're not dynamic, if you're not able to switch, then you become almost limited in your options even, right? You become limited in what you can offer other people. So let's say that I'm a welder and all I know how to do is weld. That's an amazing skill. But if I were a welder and then I was a nurse and then I was a pilot and I just had all these other skill sets, right? There's so much more information that I can provide to the human network and the collective consciousness than had I just done that one thing. And that's not only going to make me feel well about myself because I have all this knowledge, but then also it's going to make the people around me feel better because I can tell them, hey, go have those experiences. They'll make you better on the other side. Don't be afraid to take chances. Don't be afraid that you're going to take a loss, because all in all, loss is perception, right? And there's always something to gain from a loss. So anyway, that's just how I believe that you can overcome negativity or depression, is simply by keep going. So those days you don't feel like getting out of the bed, make a change, right? And it doesn't have to be dramatic, but make a change. Start making small changes. Force yourself to get out of the bed, even if it's to get up and play a video game. Get up and do something that will inspire you to do something else, right? Get out of the bed and just walk around the block. Get out of the bed and have a conversation with your children or with your partner that you might not have otherwise had because you were in a bad mood. Get out of bed and turn on something positive, right? Like go to YouTube or whatever outlet you enjoy and look up a video of traveling or of an experience that you might be telling yourself in the back of your head that I can't have that experience. I'm not there yet, right? And then go and start to look up that information and maybe re-motivate yourself to say, well, then again, maybe I can go have that experience, right? And one more thing I'll add to that is when I was traveling, there was a point where I went into this park that was kind of abandoned, and I was just exploring it, right? And that's really how I like to travel. I like to just go have experiences and explore places that many people don't go, and it gives me an opportunity to challenge myself, right? Can I get through this situation alone? You know what I'm saying? And once I can, then I know I can overcome anything that come after, right? So challenge yourself. That's another one. But anyway, so I go into this abandoned park that I think is abandoned, and as I'm getting like halfway through it, I get swarmed by a pack of dogs. It's like 3 or 4 dogs that just swarm me, and they're barking, they're really loud, they're very aggressive, they're running up toward me, and I get scared. Not really even scared, just like I hesitate. I get stuck in my tracks. I'm like, okay, well, damn, wait a minute, I wasn't expecting that, right? And I hear this voice in my head. I hear my spirit, my divine self, my higher self talking to me. And all I hear is this divine thought of, make it past me and you win. And I started thinking, I was like, right. This is the challenge I was looking for. You know, it just manifested in a way I wasn't expecting, which is how challenges have to manifest. Because if the challenges only manifest in ways that you expect them to, then it's not really a challenge. You're like, yes, I knew that was coming. I can defeat it easily, right? So when that surprise challenge hits you, it's like, okay, now I have to really go within to overcome this. So make it past me, you win. That's what I hear, right? and I start like yelling at the dogs and clapping at the dogs, and I just start walking up to them, right? Like I start gaining ground toward the dogs, and as I get closer and closer to the dogs, they back down, and one of them just lays down, the other two like go away, and I'm like, okay, cool, and I just walk past them, right? And after I walk past them, I got to go explore this park more. And so I see that now when negativity comes into my experience, I remember that moment, and I tell myself, make it past this and I win, right? And so there's a lot of things that I'll notice will challenge me and kind of try to put me back into a fear mindset or put me in my place and tell me I'm not great enough to accomplish the thing I set out to do. And I'll remember that moment and I'll challenge that challenge, right? I'll step forward and say, okay, I accept this and I'm going to push forward and overcome it regardless. And then I notice that when I do that, things just fall away, right? It becomes easy. It's just like, oh, okay, it was just a bluff, right? You called it, right? Bark is louder than the bite or whatever, right? More bark than bite. And I think a lot of us will get turned down by the bark of these challenges we face in life. And that puts us in these depressive states, and we just go and we lay in the bed because we don't think we can overcome that next obstacle. When really that next obstacle is just a pack of dogs barking because they haven't seen you before. They think that you might turn away, and they're just as scared of you as you are of them. And if you step up to the challenge, you say, no, I want what's on the other side of this, and nothing's going to turn me away from it. And you push through that depression, you push through that negativity, it's yours, right? Yes. And there was one more thing I wanted to talk about. I completely forgot. Overcoming negativity, overcoming depression, and spreading positivity, right? Changing other people's moods, building the network, positivity and with love. And I'm not sure what the other topic was, but I guess what I'll go into real quick, because it's on my mind, is just how to get in tune with that higher self, and how to see the universe when it's speaking to you, and how to be open to these signs, right? And understand it. So what I believe happens is that you will start to notice, I've kind of touched on this in other videos, but you'll start to notice synchronicities. And the synchronicities will capture your attention sometimes simply for the sake to bring your attention to something, right? Like in my previous videos, if you go back, I got stuck in the mud and I was talking about how I saw a couple of hawks that day, and the hawks were representative to me of positivity, of an ally, right? That the universe was showing me that I was aligned and I was where I was supposed to be. So you'll notice things like this happen at the strangest times, or when and I guess this is the trick, because sometimes those signs of divinity, of guidance, will come at negative intervals. They'll come when you're going through something negative. And it's up to you to take that and to internalize it as something positive. Because what happens is if you take it and you say, well, I'm going through this negative situation, so that sign must be negative, then when you see those signs, you will think that something negative is occurring, and you will ultimately block out your blessings and block out your success and your ability to achieve that next step in life. But if you recognize that that negative situation was only negative in your perception, and that what was actually happening was the universe was allowing you to go through something to show you that positivity was on the other side of that, and to show you that those signs, right? And that's what the signs are for, so that when you're in darkness, those signs are to show you that there's still light in that darkness, and all you need to do is prevail a little longer, go forward, right? And then what you'll start to notice is when you go through negativity in the future, those signs will be there, and you'll be like, wow, this is a crazy coincidence, because those signs shouldn't be here, right? And that'll remind you, like I was saying with the truckers don't run, right? Like, that will remind you to take that second to look around and say, okay, wait, universe, all right, last time I saw these signs, I was going through such and such, and I learned this from that experience. So let me take a second, because there's something here for me to learn, right? And then when you do that, you'll start to get into a flow of seeing those things. You say, okay, wait, okay, this is a setback or this is a delay, right? Like I said, the universe is never setting you back, it's setting you aside. It's putting you on pause so you can learn something to move forward. And then once you realize that, you can look around, you'll see the signs, and the signs will tell you, that it's time to learn this or understand that, and then you'll be able to move forward through that negativity. Again, it's just perceived negativity, but you'll be able to move through that situation with much greater ease, okay? So if you want to know more about that, let me know in the comments. I can make a whole video about that. It's helped me a lot going through whatever I go through on a daily basis. My days are getting much easier because my perspective is changing, and I just want to help you do the same thing. I'll see you in the next one.